We're going to talk just for a little while now about the key concepts of the Soul Healing Love model. And what I'm going to do is give you some terms, and then we're going to share some definitions with you. And the first term, which is probably sort of pivotal in the Soul Healing model, is a soul wound. And we define a soul wound as a need from childhood that wasn't met. And the reason that we go with childhood, because people always ask us, why childhood? I mean, can we have soul wounds in adult life? Absolutely. You can have soul wounds for the rest of your life. Those people that were in ground zero very definitely have soul wounds from that. But the reason we look at childhood is because one of the things we know about neuroprobes or neurobiology is that memory, that in the brain, memory grooves are deep. They're deep little grooves in the brain, and childhood memory grooves are deeper. So the traumas or the memories from childhood have formed deeper memory grooves in the brain. Now, there's something that's real important about a soul wound, and that is that when you have a trauma in childhood, it's not recorded in the neocortex. The neocortex is the new brain, we call it. It's the part of us that can look down on ourselves and observe ourselves, that thinks through things and takes in information and makes decisions about life. The trauma that occurs in childhood is not recorded in the new brain. It's recorded in the old brain. The old brain is the hippocampal section. In that section of the brain, that is where our fight or flight mechanism exists. So if we have a soul wound that's triggered, we can have a fight or flight response going off. We call it an old brainer. When you have a situation that occurs in this relationship that triggers a wound from childhood, you've got an old brainer operating. Now, two very key things about the old brain. Number one, it is your self-defense mechanism. So you will have a knee-jerk fight or flight response. The second thing is it has no sense of time. So something that happened at age 5 could be relived at 25 with the same feelings and emotions. I want to tell you about an old brainer in my own life. I grew up, like I said, in the hills of Tennessee, and we were quite a redneck family. And in my redneck family, my parents had redneck fights. And when one particular night, they had just a pretty devastating redneck fight, and my dad said, you know what, that's it. That's it. I'm out of here. I'm not sticking around anymore. Now, as a kid, kids know when parents mean this. They threatened 100 times, but I panicked. All of a sudden, I looked in my dad's eyes and I realized he's going to leave us. And we have little kids in the house, and something is very wrong with Mom. Mental illness, alcoholism, something is wrong with her. So if my dad walks out that door, I'm going to have to take care of all these little kids in this house, and I'm not prepared to do this. So I grab his leg, and he's dragging me out the door, across the plank floor in this little hillbilly house, opens the screen, kind of slings me off and goes, sorry, kiddo, I can't do this anymore. I'm out of here. Slams the door. Now, I'm thinking I will never have to deal with my childhood wounds again. I can easily move away from them. Well, let me share with you what happens. We've been married all of like 2 months, and I actually cooked. I say that, I actually cooked then. Now we eat cereal when we're home. But I was cooking dinner for him, and, I'm feeling so economical and sound because I'm making this delicious, nutritious dinner.
I began to eat and just enduring the pain, and trying to keep it down. And so I'm eating away, and Bev is hovering over me the whole time. And she's saying, well, do you like it? Do you really love it? Oh, yes, dear, it's wonderful. Bev said, well, that's great because we have a whole nother quiche pie for tomorrow night. And as I heard that, I thought, I cannot eat quiche 2 nights in a row. I will be dead by tomorrow night. There's no way I can do this for 2 days in a row. So I'm Portuguese. I'm kind of hot-blooded anyway. And my mom always taught me when I was growing up, if you get upset, just go outside and cool off before you say something to hurt someone's feelings. So in my mind, that's all I'm thinking I'm going to do. I'm just going to stand up and walk out on the front porch and kind of cool off before I say something that hurts my bride's feelings. But as I stood up, I said the magic words. Now, I didn't know they were magic words until I said them. Because what I said was, okay, that's it, I'm out of here. And I stand up and I start walking toward the door. What do you think happened as I said those magic words and walked toward that door? She grabbed my leg.
Yes.
I am dragging my wife across the floor. She is screaming at the top of her lungs, you can't leave me like this. You can't abandon me like this. I remember looking down and thinking, I have married a psycho woman here.
Now, what is worse is I thought I had become a psycho woman. You know, it's like, oh no, that's it. I'm certifiably crazy. Now just commit me. That, guys, was an old brainer. I was melting down and having an old brainer. I was triggered in this relationship, and something from childhood came up with all that emotion, and I'm giving this situation far more emotion than it deserves because a wound from childhood is being triggered. That is called reactivity. Now, not only then was I reactive, what we have found is one mate gets reactive. Well, it's very common then for the other mate to get reactive as well. I'm psycho woman. So it's going to stand to reason that he's going to have a reaction to that. And one of the things that we have found is that couples are attracted to people with similar wounds. It just sort of happens that way. But often they have opposite adaptations to those wounds. So it stands to reason then, I get triggered, I get reactive, I get upset. My being upset and reactive is going to trigger a wound in him. He's going to be reactive as well. And we call that interactivity. How do you get out of reactivity and interactivity? And the concept, the tool, the concept that we talk about is intentionality. Intentionality is the ability to act in a healing way, to do what it takes to be healthy no matter how you feel, which is really hard, no matter how you feel. Now, how do you do that then? How do you engage? We actually kind of adopted the concept from AA. Those of you who know AA, fake it till you make it. No matter how you feel, gotta have a drink, dying for a drink, you walk past the bar door anyway. You act as if you don't want the drink. And what we know from AA now is if you keep acting a certain way, eventually feelings will follow. And so this is when the guy says, it's been 6 weeks and now I don't want a drink anymore. I kept walking by the bar door, faking it till I made it, and now I don't want a drink anymore.
And then one other thing that we call ownership. We talked about that earlier in the seminar. Ownership is understanding the part you play in a conflict rather than what your partner does. It doesn't matter to me anymore what the issues are. If each person is willing to take ownership and understand the part they play and communicate about that and then work to move toward a healing direction no matter how they feel, then the soul healing process will work regardless of the issue.
The last concept, guys, that I think is really, really important is koinonia. And koinonia is a Greek word for fellowship. Those older of us know koinonia groups were fellowship groups in church. I guess they have some now, but it was kind of a really big thing in the 70s. And the fellowship was deep fellowship. It was empathic, deep bonded fellowship, where people would get together in groups and really share their guts and their souls and pray for each other. But there's actually a little bit deeper meaning of the word koinonia in the Greek. And the closest word in our English language is empathy. And empathy, there's sympathy is, oh, I feel sorry for you, that's terrible. And empathy is, I'm feeling with you, I feel your pain. Koinonia is one step further, and we really don't have an English word that describes it. It's, instead of I feel your pain, it's your pain is mine. And koinonia then by definition is, if you have hurt and pain, I take that hurt and pain and I take it into me, and now it's my hurt and pain. And this is what we share with soul healing couples. If he hurts and we're one, then I hurt too, which is what that passage in Ephesians talks about when it says that husbands, if you love your wives, you love yourselves. And the converse is true. If you hurt your wives, you hurt yourselves. So koinonia is, if something happens to you, it's going to happen to me because we are one together. So if you get cut, I bleed. Now, that has great implications for how a couple can be connected. But the problem is oftentimes I'm the one that cuts you. I'm the one that hurts you. And now I'm bleeding. So it would behoove me not to hurt my mate so that I wouldn't bleed, so that I wouldn't have problems. But I realize being somebody and feeling with them has terrific power. And think about what it can do in a marriage. You know, think about what it would be like when he hurts. I crawl inside and I become him. You can't pay for that. There's no amount of money that could ever pay for that. There's no life experience. Having someone who feels your pain with you and becomes you, it's, you know, I'd give him a kidney. I'd take a bullet for him, because it's having somebody in life that walks beside you in that way and knows what's going on inside you is worth more than anything in the world. And that's the goal as we begin to deal with our own reactivity and interactivity, is have someone who walks beside you and knows your pain.